Hello and welcome to Zambia Today. I'm your host, Faith Katai. Zambia Today is a program that keeps you informed on various government policies and programs. On this episode, we feature Mr. Edson Nkonde, the director for the Zambia Meteorological Department under the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment, who is going to explain to us about the dry spell being experienced in the various parts of the country. Sir, how are you? And welcome to the program.
I'm okay. How are you?
Fine.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Sir, explain to us how severe is the dry spell, and is it going to turn into a drought? Are there any chances that it might result into a drought?
Okay. I think for me to explain and for the viewers to see what is going on, in terms of how the rainfall has performed since the start of the season. Remember at the beginning of the season, in September last year, 2023, we issued the seasonal rainfall forecast, where we indicated that the season will be influenced by a phenomenon called the El Nino. And the El Nino generally, for Zambia, reduces rainfall across the country, especially over the southern half of the country. And so the rainfall that we've received since the start of the season, from October up to around 10th February, is as follows. So this is the picture that we have in terms of the total rainfall that we've received so far. So you can see that there are certain areas over northwestern province and Luapula and northern provinces which have received in excess of 900 millimeters, close to 1,000 millimeters so far. But we have areas over the southern half where we have received less than 300 millimeters. Now, how does that compare with the average, the normal that these areas are supposed to receive? So that's this image here now. So you will see that the brown shades are the areas where we are saying we have deficits. We have deficits, the rainfall is not enough. We haven't received enough rainfall since the start of the season. But you can see that the northern parts, which is predominantly Luapula and northern provinces, the areas which are shaded green, those are the areas where we have surplus rainfall. We have received above their normal during the period. So in terms of the areas that have severe deficits, you are looking at areas over the southern province, the areas which have the darker colors of brown. We have areas over parts of the Copper Belt, parts of Central Province, Western Province, going into Muchinga, as well as Eastern Province. So these are the areas which have received below average rainfall, which have received deficits. And if this scenario continues, you can call it a drought. But for us, the impact in terms of whether it's a dry spell or a drought is the same. It's severe, especially when it occurs during this part of the year, part of the season, February, when most of the crops, for example, for agriculture, when most of the crops require a lot of rainfall, and we have this deficit, it means the impact is quite severe. So we are expecting that this picture will continue. So if I can have the second slide, please. So the second slide, this is the forecast now, up to the end of February. What are we expecting? So this is the picture in terms of the total amounts that we are going to receive. So you see that still those northern areas, Luapula, northern province, and parts of Muchinga will still continue receiving significant amounts of rainfall. But as we go down southwards, you realize that southern province, Lusaka province, parts of western province and central province will still continue having deficits. There may be some rains improvement in terms as we go towards the end of the season into March, but we are anticipating that that will not be significant to wipe off the deficits that we have incurred so far. Now, during the same period, this is the focus in terms of the total amount of rainfall that we'll receive. This is the deficits during the same period. We are focusing the deficits, and the brown shades gives us the deficits that we are expecting to incur. And you will see that close to 80 millimeters, which is very, very significant. in terms of the deficits are the deficits that we are going to see over the areas with the brown shades. Of course, still areas of over Southern Province, Central Province, Lusaka, parts of the Copper Belt and Northwestern as well as Western are still going to have those severe deficits, a lot of deficit in terms of rainfall. But we are going to have to continue having above average or surplus rainfall over Luapula, northern and parts of Muchinga, the northern parts of those provinces. So this is the picture that we are carrying up to the end of February. There is some slight chance that we may have improvements as we go towards the end, but even that improvement may not be significant to wipe out the deficits that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Ngonde. So, Mr. Ngonde, what are the factors that are leading to the deficits in terms of the rainfall patterns in our country?
So, like I mentioned, this season, as we indicated at the beginning of the season, through our seasonal rainfall forecast and through the statement that was given by the Minister, Honorable Collins Nzovu, Minister of Green Economy and Environment in Parliament, we indicated that the season was going to be influenced by the El Nino climate phenomena. Now, this phenomena happens over the Pacific Ocean, where we notice the above average temperatures, sea surface temperatures. So these sea surface temperatures are monitored, and over the years, we've noted that when we observe over those areas, when we observe above average temperatures, then in the months that are coming, for example, we observe these conditions in June, July, August. So during that period, if we observe that these conditions, the sea surface temperatures over the Pacific are above average, then we know that the rainfall over Zambia is going to be reduced, especially over the southern half of the country. So that is the phenomena that has contributed largely to the deficits that we are seeing, the dry spells and the high temperatures. Because apart from just the dry conditions, we are also seeing that we have elevated temperatures across the country, and that is also contributing to further reducing the soil moisture, which is very critical for crop growth across the country. So essentially, what has contributed to what has influenced the dry conditions that we're experiencing is largely the El Nino phenomena, but also there are localized conditions, like for example, the way people have cut down the trees. Areas where we have too much cutting down of trees for different purposes, for agriculture and other issues, we are seeing much more rapid reduction in soil moisture because the land is bare and therefore there's no protection in terms of holding the soil moisture. And that is also having now a negative impact in terms of other aspects of water, the groundwater recharge, as well as the soil moisture that should be available for crop growth.
So the dry spell we are experiencing, how is it going to affect the different sectors of our economy in terms of water, energy, and agriculture?
So obviously, because for water, the starting point is how much rainfall you have. So if you don't have enough rainfall, it means the subsequent impact is that you don't have enough water for different aspects, for consumption, for irrigation, and many other applications of water. For agriculture, obviously, I'm sure you've seen even the impacts. A lot of people are circulating their fields, how they have been impacted negatively, the dryness that is there. So those are some of the impacts, but we know that the Minister of Agriculture, I think, will give a comprehensive picture in terms of the impacts across the country. But from our perspective, we know that if there's dry conditions, then there's a negative impact in terms of crop yield and other agricultural applications. But also because, for example, livestock requires water. So if we have a deficit, then it impacts also the livestock. Zambia is predominantly dependent on hydro for its power generation. And so if we have less rainfall, obviously we expect some impact in terms of our energy production. Those things, I think even the minister touched on them as he gave the statement last week. So those are some of the impacts that we are seeing in the different sectors. And of course, there's there'll be a consequence in terms of the socio-economic aspects as well, because of the impacts on the energy, water, and agriculture.
So in terms of this dry spell, are we seeing it coming to an end?
So generally, like I still continue mentioning, when we have El Nino, and it's not just any El Nino, because, you know, if I probably can explain also this aspect, there's over the Pacific Ocean, there are 3 phases. So you have El Nino, you have neutral conditions, which is just normal conditions of temperatures, and then we have La Nina, which is below the average. So you have El Nino, above average sea surface temperatures, you have the normal, which is neutral, and then we have the La Nina, which is the below average temperature, the cooling. And all these phases impacts us differently. The El Nino obviously dries us. Neutral conditions is just about normal for us, the normal rainfall that we receive. The La Nina gives us above average rainfall, so you have a lot of flooding and a lot of above average surplus rainfall. So, but these conditions that we are talking about, for us, the impact for us, we observe it during the months of June, July, and August, not any other period. Any other period has very little impact on our weather patterns. So the weather patterns, I mean, the condition that we observe, that we look out for over the Pacific is during June, July, August. So we use those conditions now to give a prediction, because the impact, when we observe those conditions over the Pacific, it takes 3 months or so for us to see the impacts. So we use those conditions as part of our prediction into how the rainfall season will perform. So that's, I thought I should emphasize that one, because I've heard people say, no, it will be La Nina in April, it will be El Nino in January, or those may not, there's a lag in terms of what we observe, those conditions, and when the impact is on us. So there's a lag of about 3 months or so. So that's I wanted that to be out there. So, and then when we observe those conditions, we incorporate them into our forecasting system, our season forecasting system. And from there now, as the season starts, because, you know, when we give these the seasonal forecast, it's not supposed to be used in isolation. We do so in September, October, we issue the seasonal forecast, but as the season starts, we start updating, because the seasonal forecast is more or less like a bird's eye view. It's average conditions that we are giving. As the season starts, we now start breaking it down into smaller forecasts, into the 10-day forecast, the weekly forecast, because that now will give us how the distribution will be. Even if in some cases we project that we are going to have below average rainfall, but if the distribution is okay, we may still have support, for example, for agriculture and other applications. So we start using this, we start breaking it down to give daily, weekly, and monthly weather forecast. So that's what so when you get the seasonal forecast, you are supposed to continue receiving the updates daily, because that's the way you have complete information. The seasonal forecast will just give you generally what's likely to happen. For example, we will tell you that it's above normal or it's below normal, but we may not tell you the distribution, because at that lead time, we may not have the details, and the details will come into the daily forecast, the 7-day forecast, and the 10-day weather forecast. We also produce what we call the agro-meteorological bulletins, which we co-produce with Ministry of Agriculture, which also are targeted for the farming community. So in that bulletin, we tell how the weather is going to be in the next 10 to 14 days. And then the agricultural experts from Ministry of Agriculture gives us now to say, because of what meteorological conditions will be, this is what farmers should do. This is how they should manage their crops. This is how they should manage their farming activities, and so on and so forth. And so, for this time around, for the rest of the season, we are not expecting rains to, the deficits, in short, the deficits that we have incurred so far will continue into March. We may have some improvement in terms of the number of rain days, but the amounts will not be significant to wipe off the deficits that we have, that has been incurred, especially in those areas over Southern Province, Central Province, Western Province, parts of Lusaka Province, and Central Provinces, including the southern parts of the Copper Belt.
Wonderful. Let's take a short break.
Zambia Today is a program that keeps you informed on various government policies and programs. Join us every Tuesday at 18 hours. Don't miss.
Welcome back. In case you have just joined us, you are watching Zambia Today, and we are talking to Mr. Edson Gonde, the Director for the Zambia Meteorological Department under the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment, who is explaining about the dry spell being experienced in the various parts of the country. Sir, we get back to our interview. So what exactly is the ministry and the department doing to, like, measures that you've put in place to just to ensure that the country is ready to adapt to this dry spell?
Okay, so, you know, meteorological services, I will explain the value chain of meteorological services. We start with observations. From observations, we collect a lot of data. We go to generating information. Generating information for different sectors, for agriculture sector, for water, energy, disaster, risk management, health, and so on and so forth. And then the other aspect we do is to ensure that this information gets out. We share with different user communities. And so that's the value chain that government is trying to strengthen. Starting with our observation infrastructure, for example. For a long time, we have had very few stations across the country. I think there was just about 30 to 35 districts with a meteorological station, and that resulted into poor quality information, because for you to observe the vastness of the country like Zambia, you need a lot of weather stations, and that's one thing that government has done. Of course, we've done it with support from cooperating partners also. We have the UNDP that has supported us with expanding our ground stations. We've had the Southern Africa Science Services Center program that has helped us also to increase through the support from the German government. But the biggest one that we've had is through the support of the World Bank. The World Bank is supporting a project called Transforming Landscape for Resilience and Development, the TRALAD project, where we have now installed, in every district, we've installed a weather station, automated weather station, modern weather stations, that are now able to give us real-time data that we are able to now share with the international community, but share with the international community and also share with the local users in the country. So that is very, very significant. It's not yet where we want to be, but it's a tremendous improvement from where we were. Because having a station in every district means that we now have the ability to provide localized information, localized weather and climate services that people can now use to adapt to the extreme weather events or the changes that we are observing in our climate patterns. That's one aspect. There's still more that needs to be done, but that's a huge improvement that has been done with support from the World Bank TRALAD project. There's also another aspect where we are improving. We want to improve information for agriculture and water resource management. So in that regard, what we've done is we are adding rainfall stations. We are establishing rainfall stations so that we can quantify how much water we receive from the rains. And therefore, the water resource managers can manage it very well. If we can't measure it, we can't manage it. So we want to improve the measurement of how much rainfall we receive, and also to provide for the agricultural information, because that is the information now that we are going to use to make projections, to understand how the weather is changing, and therefore inform the users to adapt appropriately or design interventions that are appropriate, that are driven by the data that we are collecting. That's the aspect to do with our observation infrastructure. In terms of generating information itself, there are a number of things that we are doing. There are a number of initiatives. Again, with support, for example, from the TRALAD, we are computerizing all our meteorological stations. We are giving them computing power, because for us to generate information which is good quality, usable, and packaged correctly, we need computing capacity. And so that is another aspect that is being done to improve service delivery, meteorological service delivery. We are also, through support again from another project from the World Bank, the PPCR, the pilot project for climate resilience. It's closed now, but it helped us to establish modeling capacity. You know, for us to make sense of the observations that we are getting across the country and generate information that is tailored for the sectors, we need, first of all, a lot of computing power, but also human resource with the relevant skills to do modeling. Modeling is just shaping the data to make sense out of it and generate information that we can give the users. So those are the aspects, that initiatives that have helped us to improve in terms of meteorological services and be ready and ensure that the users of this information are ready for any changes that may occur, any extreme weather events that can come around. So we have established a modeling facility at the department, and we are able to get this data and generate forecasts that are tailored. We are also, one of the aspects that we are doing is not just to generate information just anyhow, but we are now starting to engage the different users. For example, like I mentioned to you, we are now working with the Minister of Agriculture, the experts from Minister of Agriculture, so that our information, when we generate this information, these forecasts, they are speaking to the needs of the users on the ground, the farmers on the ground. So when we generate this meteorological information, we couple it with agricultural advisories, agricultural information, so that now the farmers can be informed completely and therefore make decisions that are going to improve their productivity. And then the other aspect that we are doing, after we make these observations, we improve the observations that are going to influence the quality and the accuracy of our information that we produce. We have to deliver this information to the general public and the different sectors, the different communities across the country. And therefore, what we have noted, one of our deficiencies is that we are not available in all the districts, for example. We are just available at the provincial headquarters in most instances. And therefore, but we have partner institutions, we have the government institutions that are present up to the ward level, up to the camp level. And the Minister of Agriculture, for example, the extension services are present. And therefore, we are working with them to ensure that when we disseminate this information, when we generate this information, they are able to pick it up, repackage it, add other advisories in terms of agricultural advisories, and disseminate to the camp, the farmers in the camps across the country. So to do that, what we've been doing is now we are training the extension service workers. The camp extension officers, for example, we have trained a number in Southern Province, Western Province, Muchinga Province, and Eastern Province. And we are planning to train over 600 this year, so that when they receive that information, they can now package it, and add advisories so that now the users on the ground, the smallholder farmers and everyone else is able to receive this information in a complete format. So that's what we are doing in terms of reaching out, reaching the last mile, ensuring that the end users, the people on the ground, are able to receive this information. We are also partnering with the ZANIS and other media houses, the community radio stations, to ensure that the information that we generate, we produce, also reaches a lot of users, because it's very critical. It's very critical. It can make, it can contribute immensely to the country's productivity if it's packaged correctly and if it's used correctly. So those are some of the things that we are doing to ensure that the citizens across the country are ready for extreme weather events, for the changes that we are observing in our climate systems. Yeah, so generally that's what we are doing. We are expanding and modernizing our observation infrastructure, ensuring that we have computing capacity, but also training our staff in different skills that are required for us to generate information that is relevant, and also partnering with media houses and other partners to ensure that the information that is generated reaches the users on the ground.
Great. So what advice would you give to a user of the meteorological information?
Mm-hmm. So generally for us, we say know the information that the products and services that are available. Like I said, we start with a seasonal rainfall forecast, which gives a general view of how the season is going to be. Don't just get that seasonal forecast and say, no, I know everything now. We start producing the daily forecast, the 10-day forecast, the weekly forecast, and the agrometeorological bulletins, which now breaks down, gives more detail, refines the information, so that now you know. For example, in the seasonal forecast, we can say we're expecting to have dry spells. But in the 10-day agrometeorological bulletin, we'll now tell you when this dry spell will occur. And we'll also give agricultural advisories in that bulletin, so that we guide you what you need to do. And so it's important that you get the complete set of information for you to enhance your productivity if it's in agriculture or even in other sectors. So it's a complete information that we need to get as users, the seasonal forecast and the other information, for us to have a complete understanding of how the season is going to pan out. But also, we've noted that there's a lot of fake products in terms of the weather, in terms of what is happening, that is flying around on social media. And therefore, we encourage the users to reach out to the meteorological department and ensure that they get only the products that we give out, because other information may cause harm to if you use it. So we encourage that people need to use the information that we generate as a government department responsible for generating these meteorological services.
Wonderful. Mr. Nkonde, thank you for making an appearance on Zambia Today.
Thank you very much for having me, and we hope that you invite us again to come and explain further issues concerning the weather and the climate.
Well, viewers, that's all. We've come to the end of Zambia Today. On behalf of the entire ZANIS production team, this has been Faith Katai. Thank you for watching.